This TikTok I watched last night, it was pretty funny. With the Twin Peaks sound, with the Twin Peaks music, it's so good. It's such a good song for that, dude. Anyway, oh, I forgot. Let's I didn't even blast off today. God damn. Hold up. I hosted Pod Save and it got to number 1. Hosted Pod Save and it got to number 1. Cenksgiving recap, One Reacts, and more. Also, we're fundraising for, right? He says Texas on ideology.shop, all to help migrants. Yeah, get in now. Giveaway is done, chat. Lol. How does the gifting work? Like, will they be notified and can select their size? Yeah, I guess. What is this blast off meme? Looks like meat is back on the menu, boys. Okay, that's an insane thing that you just did to me. You sent me a Google Doc. And you know what? Fuck it, I'm using it. Okay. Here it is. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Okay, a lot going on. I had a really good convo in civil with my Trumpy because he didn't realize all the anti-LGBT stuff going on. Thanks for helping me with radical empathy. Yeah, I hope you guys had a I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving so far. I've heard that some people do Thanksgiving on Friday as well. Like they do it on Thursday and they do it on Friday. That's what I've heard. I've heard some people just doing that, especially if they have like like divorced families or whatever. But for me, one day is enough. I'm back to business, baby. We're done. Okay, where are you going, Kaya? What the hell? That's crazy. She's acting brand new. She's like, LA Times is here. I can do what I want. I'm queen. I'm the queen. They're continuing to pump out your pod save clips. Keep up the good work. Yeah, hell yeah. For every single person, including the people that voted for Donald Trump. One of the funniest aspects of the tariffs conversation that's happening right now is that Donald Trump is going to implement broad tariffs on 45% of all trade that comes in and out of the United States of America. Mexico, Canada, and China comprise 45% of all trade. He wants to tariff every single one. Tariffs are obviously an entry fee that the American corporations are going to be paying. None of the countries are going to be paying for these tariffs. It's a policy that's going to destroy drop shippers, which overwhelmingly vote for Donald Trump, and the Trump merchandise industry. So that's pretty funny. But having said that, it's going to be devastating for the economy. Now, what do I think Trump will do in the process? He'll obviously use tariffs to basically get corporations and industries and sector leaders on board with his agenda. So when he says jump, they say how high, or I'm going to slap you with tariffs and it's going to actually punish you. It's going to hurt your bottom line. And I think that's part of the reason why they're going to do that. The other reason is it's a regressive tax. It's a broad sales tax on all consumers that disproportionately affects the working poor. And Republicans love that shit. He also, at times, I think, will just institute the Defense Production Act or something. Like, we'll see it. We kind of saw it in COVID as well when it was a necessity. But that's the thing. The American government is powerful. All governments are powerful, but the American government is especially powerful. It's the wealthiest nation on the planet. And the way that it runs is basically, it's like 50 companies in a trench coat. We are working at the behest of corporations. We feed them with our tax dollars that turn into subsidies for them. They utilize those subsidies to, I guess, lower production costs, but then they use that to increase their profit margins and engage in what used to be illegal pre-Ronald Reagan, stock buybacks and the like, market manipulation of all different sorts. And we're constantly deregulating the economy. It's not just about having a populist message. It's about actually implementing said populist message and show who your real enemies are. Am I doing any podcasts while I'm in England? I don't know. I don't know if I have the time. A bunch of people have reached out to do stuff, but I'm in and out in England, and I'm going to be constantly moving. So there's a lot to figure out. Alex Connor. I would potentially do one with him. I just don't know how I would even reach out to him, honestly. I don't know. Like, what's his name? Cosmic Skeptic, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, I have no way of reaching him, so come to Yokosan, please. Are you live streaming your talks in the UK? Yes. I'm planning on doing that, yes. Too accurate? What is this? Grandma, you're looking lovely tonight. Look, you guys, I just think healthcare is a universal right. Cousin John, you're a fascist and the revolution will not spare you. Yeah. It's the occasion in the UK. Don't worry about it. Do you want to do giveaways at set time so it doesn't interrupt? Also, let chat know. Also, Zero DBP won the last giveaway. Congratulations to Zero DBP. Check the letter. This is my mom. Are you debating Jordan Peterson finally? No. Come to Slow is beautiful this time of year. That sounds awful. That sounds like an awful place. You know what it reminds me of? Where did I go? I went to Birmingham. Or no, not Birmingham. Where did I go that was like so dog shit? It was it Birmingham? It was like one mall. That's the only thing they had there. And I didn't even go to the fucking mall. No, not Brighton. Brighton is fine. I think it was I think Birmingham. Brighton was all right. It's just like everything is so gray in the UK, and Brighton's like, come see our beaches. We've got nice beaches, and then they have no beaches. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, yet more anti-Scottish racism by not visiting there. Yeah. Birmingham is great. Fellow Broomy. Nice. UK frogs are chirping. What's wrong with Brighton, man? What the fuck? No, I said Brighton is nice. Tubbo, I gotta hit you up to ask for advice on how to live stream these 2 events that I have. Where like, I don't know. I need your expertise on this. I'll DM you. Their beaches are literally gravel. That's what I'm saying. Pro-Israel people are beefing with Oxford Union for some pro-Palestine speakers. Yeah, last night at the Oxford Union debate, usefulity of Miko Pellet explicitly supported terrorism, a violation of UK law. When a point of order was raised twice, the president, who both chaired the debate and also took part in it against Israel, gave the pathetic excuse of, I don't enforce the rules. He's literally the chair. Miko's comment, what we saw on October 7th was not terrorism. These were acts of heroism of a people that had been oppressed and killed. Utterly shameful conduct at Oxford Union. The university should be embarrassed by this outrageous conduct. Instead of acting as a bastion of free speech, the Oxford Union is acting as a mouthpiece for terrorism. Yeah, that's cool, Emily Schrader. Thanks. Is there a greater support of terrorism than anyone raising the flag of the country Israel? Yeah, literally. Like, supporting Israel is an insurmountable support. Like a support for an insurmountable amount of terrorism that you can't even comprehend. Trigonometry in UK, bro. They did Shirky Gurga. Show them the Unc nephew bond, sir. I don't think they would fuck with me like that. But anyway, but yeah, we got a lot going on in the world. But yeah, this was pretty fun. This is great. The Pod Save America getting to #1 is pretty chill. I won't lie. Also, let's look at this Hasanabi bingo.
It's time for Hasanabi bingo.
Please shut the fuck up. Normal. How many Twitter tabs we got open today? A lot. Okay. So I don't know how that works, but who's in? Okay, that's a free spot. I'm sorry. You're an absolute fucking dumbass. Okay? That's it. If you believe anyway, point I was making. I get tired. That okay, let me live. Stop, I'm banning you. I'm done. I can't do this. No, I'm not. We are so cooked. America as a nation is so cooked. I will always keep repeating this. I hate that I have to give it to Brian fucking Kill Myself of all people. Okay? Makes me want to say, fuck over here, dude. What's wrong with you? What the fuck is
they called me a fucking idiot in the chat.
What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? He said America deserved 9/11. Stop crying, bitch. Anyway. Okay, that was the Neek skip ban. Yeah, I had to hit him with that. The worst part of Cenksgiving was him insisting that you be called something other than progressive left or whatever. Yeah, I don't know what's up with him on that front. Yeah, I think what anyone who is in support of the working class in the United States of America, you know what they need most? More sectarian infighting. We need more labels and we need more infighting. And what we need to do is just like spend every moment with the limited amount of power, the fractional amount of power and influence that we already have, which is nothing. It's marginal. It's basically inconsequential. What we should do is use all of the finite amount of energy that we have instead of organizing against, like, you know, growing fascism in this country, or organizing against the Democratic Party that refuses to listen to the very reasonable demands being made by the populist left. What we should do instead is fight each other over disagreements. That's me. That's my TikTok. Congratulations, Rena Kachow. It's a fantastic TikTok. I'm screaming, I'm the left. They're not the left. Yeah. It's just, I don't know how I don't know how much more I can talk about this. It's like, I think it's like wholly unproductive and completely silly. Okay. I hate to see Unk on Unk violence like that. Unk Shaky Gurga coming after Unk Sam Cedar. Not good. Didn't like that. It seems so unproductive to talk about this. I don't know how Cenk does it. Yeah, I think he's just like really upset. Like so much of his anger and resentment would go away if he simply stopped being on Twitter, I think, or stopped listening to any criticisms coming from, Majority Report or anywhere else. Uh-oh. No more Z word to harass people. What's the next word to harass people? Wait, what? What is this person saying? Are you implying that like Zionism as an ideology being banned is a good thing because people were just like using it as a substitute to harass people? I think the real word is still fascist, or Nazi, fascist or Nazi. But we'll don't worry, you'll probably get that banned too. Like, excuse me, fascism as a movement is simply just a political disagreement, and it's really messed up that people are using that as a substitute term for fascism. But yeah, Quan more giveaway for good measure, sure. I like that chatter also is implying that like people use Zionist as a word to substitute for Jewish person, and he wants to harass. Like in this hypothetical, he basically is saying he wants to be anti-Semitic. So thank you for openly admitting that you want to be anti-Semitic, you fucking loser. Like that's cool. The word capitulation will be my bingo card. It's the one you're most used, Lamau. It's because it's pretty big. What is this? Cenk is 100% cooked, bruh.
Majority Report jumped in, and Lance from the Serfs, and all the other little dirtbags jumped in, and they were like, "No, Cenk and Anna are turning right. The 13 dudes."
Ay. I think I got to him a little bit though last night after Shaky Gurga giving, where I had a conversation with him because he was like, "Why do you think?" Because we were talking about like why CNN and all these other like traditional outlets are more receptive to what I have to say than him. And he always thinks it's because I'm hot and young and cool and hip. And he's not. He's old and rugged. And I was like, no, dude, it's because of the way you carry yourself. Like I have my criticisms of mainstream outlets all the time. I have my criticisms of other commentators. I have my disagreements with them. But like the energy that you bring to any conversation, including someone like myself who loves you, like I straight up told him, I was like, if anyone that I had actually talked to, anyone that I like quote unquote debated or whatever, treated me like the way you did, like I would never ever in a million years allow that. Like I would never allow that to happen. And if you're having that energy with me, someone you love, your nephew, then yeah, I'm assuming you carry that energy with a lot of people you don't know that well, who don't have that familial relationship. And yeah, that breeds resentment, that breeds anger. And it's like overall very unnecessary, And I think he got that. He understood that a little bit. Because I basically was like, listen, I would never allow another person to talk to me like the way you talk to me. And of course, it doesn't mean anything between you and I because you've seen me shit in my diapers, okay? Like you're my uncle, I love you, but like that's if you're doing that to me, I'm assuming you do that to other people as well. And yeah, they probably don't like that. This was after dinner, yeah. I think the thing about Cenk is that he's not like, I don't think a grifter implies that there isn't like a genuine attitude change. Okay? A grifter implies that there isn't a genuine attitude change. I think he's just like genuinely has a difference in opinion in the issues that he speaks on, where he's like legitimately more conservative on those issues. Whether it happened over the course of the last couple of years, but I don't know if it happened like super fast. But I think that there has been an attitude shift where he is, and I basically tried to get him to come to that conclusion. Like I tried to walk through the steps slowly but surely by being like, there was a point where you were a fighter. You've always been a progressive fighter, right? You did not worry yourself about like what the democratic wishes of the base of support in the party looks like. You don't worry about that when it comes to Medicare for all, because you know that's right, and you know that if you champion that message, then like people will inevitably come on board with that. But it seems like for a lot of these other issues, you're willing to cast aside certain groups in the way that you communicate about these issues, because you're terrified of the fact that there is no solution that the Democratic Party will offer them. Like, even the abortion conversation, that wasn't supposed to be like me finding out what his perspective is. I thought that we were in agreement on abortion, that any sort of legislative hurdle like that on a process that already is like automatically limited to the people that need it desperately, given the invasive nature of the surgery and the cost of it alone, that any sort of additional legislative hurdle is going to cause problems in the same vein that like any sort of restriction on abortion causes problems. And then I wanted to use that as an example to bring it back to the subject matter on like, 3 strikes and you're out. It's a felony conversation, Because when you add additional restrictions on our already very restrictive, very draconian criminal justice system, you end up, it's the dynamic that 3 jewelry thefts, like the guy who stole jewelry 3 times versus the guy who stole pizza 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, there are a significantly larger number of people who will be stealing 3 slices of pizza over, doing jewelry theft. And yes, I think that the way the law works is you're supposed to, because it's so broad sweeping. Yes, you either say, nah, fuck it. Like, all of those people have to go to prison. All of those people that like steal, here and there, they have to go to prison because they're routine offenders and repeat offenders, rather than just, as long as the guy who's like stealing jewelry is going to prison too. I don't think that that's all right. Anyway, your point about your core values being that you're okay with a jewel thief being free if it means the 3 pizza guy is free also resonated well, I think. I hope people understood what I was saying. Like, that doesn't mean that, we shouldn't prosecute rape or whatever. And that doesn't even mean we shouldn't prosecute grand larceny or theft of all these different varieties. It's just that, like, when it comes to criminal justice reform, you either have the opinion of like, we need more deterrence, we need more violence in the criminal justice system that will operate as a deterrent to stop people and make people think twice before they do engage in crime, or we need to dramatically move in the opposite direction, where we focus on rehabilitation in an effort to lower recidivism rates, as other countries have successfully done. And we need to address the root causes in which crime manifests. And I think there is a crisis here born out of nihilism, born out of being a progressive champion for 25 plus years, as Cenk has been, where he is basically throughout time recognized that like no solutions are coming, no broad sweeping solutions that will tackle the issue exactly at the root cause, fixing the housing market, adding additional social safety nets, after school programs and the like. So he's like, we have to stop the bleeding. And the only way to stop the bleeding is by being even more aggressive and being even more violent in our penalties. And that in and of itself is a terrifying prospect. That's when you cave to the reactionary in your mind, when you give in. And it's kind of terrifying. It's it's something that I've noticed, that we are at the we're at the precipice of Weimar Germany style governance here. We have like the hyper nationalist, hyper right wing Republican Party, and we have the liberals that are also caving on those fears that they very effectively communicate to. And not only is it, but those fears are also coming out of like, real societal problems. And, I fear that if there isn't a massive base that recognizes the problem and works actively to try and fix it, we're just going to keep bouldering towards fascism. I think he envies you and it's poisonous. You're ridiculous, dude. That's my uncle. He does not envy me. He is very proud and very happy for my success. That's crazy.
Douchebags are right. We
can
need to protect every trans person should get free
Listen,
surgery.
we got
even in China. Even though we don't have nothing to do with China,
you gotta
we
stop.
hate them. They're Nazis.
You gotta okay.
I mean, I'm 100% right. Every dirtbag show did it.
You gotta calm
Every
down.
dirtbag show did it. Tell me I'm wrong.
This is reframing an issue that is now we've moved away from the electoral consequences of a trans ad to your own personal anger and frustration that you have with left-wing media online.
Look, the idiots making everyone think they are the left. They're like, we're the left, we're the real left. Okay, we are super extreme. We want free surgeries for every criminal. Yes, we're the left. And oh, Nazi.
Yeah, I just don't think that this is like. I think no one in this no one that was mentioned in this conversation has any real motion whatsoever in moving the needle. Like, no disrespect to anybody. Lance and the Serfs, Majority Report, myself, or the Young Turks. Like, even together, we have no motion. The most motion that Cenk ever had was with the Justice Democrats, right, alongside Kyle Kalinske, and that wasn't because of the massive audiences that they had. That was because they were actually, like the Working Families Party or the DSA in certain instances, like successfully moving the Democratic Party in the correct direction. That's what brought us the squad, right? And it came only because of, that progressive swing also happened because of Bernie Sanders too, which opened up the floodgates for that kind of communication. So yeah, Sunrise Movement too. And I think like having lost in the minutia of online commentary stuff is silly. I don't know. It's just not good. It's not good. It's not smart. Do you think that America's culture of violence contributes to our crime issue in a memorable way? I just feel like our culture we grew up in America is different than Norway, for example. I think American culture contributes to it, but culture is just a reflection of the material realities. So I think it's historically speaking, American culture is developed off of American proto-capitalist sentiment early on with the Pilgrims, and has evolved into what it is now. This like incredibly violent aberration. So American culture was far more left during FDR and earlier. Yeah, on certain aspects, you're right. On like adjusted to its time, on economic improvements, yes. But obviously, socially speaking, fuck no. You know what I mean? Like, we had the Jim Crow South at that point. The New Deal also specifically carved out black people. Like, this is not, this is pre-civil rights. We had internment camps for Japanese people. There were a lot of progressive policies that were implemented in terms of economic policies. But there was also a shit ton of regressive, a shit ton of reactionary policies that were also implemented for marginalized populations. And I don't think that it's appropriate to cast these people aside. I don't think it's appropriate to write them out. You know what I mean? So I disagree with that. Friend of the show on Friend of the Show Violence. Yeah, I have seen this, and I love Ested. And now that I'm one of the pod Johns, I feel conflicted here. You know what I mean? I love Ested. He's smart, and I always got his back. You know what I mean? He cooked here too. You okay? Have you not got enough credit for breaking the news that Joe Biden is old? You think you'd have more shame, but I understand that this is just like a game of Sims for you, he said. A good ad for the importance of independent media. I think Ested should go on the Pod Johns. I think the Pod Johns should have him on. I hate seeing my oomps fight, my Twitter oomps. The girls are fighting. Yeah. I grew up watching Jake in high school, and he was a major influence on me politically, but I became totally disillusioned in 2016 and disengaged until I found your commentary. It feels like I outgrew TYT. I mean, maybe. I think that these guys also think that like there is a real amount of like audience capture that like those who are on the hyper left, woke left, whatever the fuck you want to call it, people like myself engage in. Like, they can't comprehend that like I genuinely don't give a shit about trans people participating with cis people in athletic competition. Like, I just don't care. And not only do I not care, but I also understand exactly where that fucking anger and resentment comes from. And it's weird because like they also understand where that anger and resentment comes from. This is a deliberate mechanism to create a permission structure to shit on trans people. Like, yeah, so I'm not gonna play along with that, you know. And I think every time you even have that conversation, whether in defense of it or whether you are there to like showcase how rational you are, as opposed to these like crazies on the left or whatever, you're basically giving it more legitimacy. You're giving it more air. And I don't think that it's necessary, other than talk about how fucking silly and insidious and ridiculous these bills are, these anti-trans bills are, by pointing to the madness of it all. I think that in and of itself is a much more successful strategy, like of deflection. And I don't know why. I just don't understand why people can't see it the way that I do. And it's my fault. I should be able to communicate this a little bit better than I have. And I don't think I've done a good enough job, you know? Granting a permission of persecution because some people don't like it. They said that for desegregation. Exactly. Every step of the way, there is going to be, every step of the way, there is going to be people that are you know, not going to agree with whatever progress that you want to implement, right? People don't like change. That's a stable thing, okay? People love stability and hate change. I think it's our job as progressives to communicate. It's our job as progressives to basically communicate why these things are, you know, these attacks are silly, or why these things are not a bad thing at all. Why these policy measures are not bad at all. If they are making it easier for people to be themselves in public, and it doesn't hurt a single fucking person. So it's very frustrating. People don't hate change, they fear change. Our job is to educate people so they don't fear. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I don't think he gave in. I think he's grabbing onto what is left to grab onto in his view. He doesn't see help being given in his and everyone else's community. And I get it, to be honest. What? You think you could see yourself going even further beyond the Super Saiyan left? No, this is the maximum left position that I will be on board with. Who knows? It's understandable you didn't have the best answers considering his family. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there to like, you know, rip him apart. I think one of my biggest I think going forward, if I'm going to debate people, I'm just going to like debate people that I hate instead of trying to have like a normal, polite conversation where I try to reason with them, because I'm either, this is where I thrive. Okay. We can have polite disagreements, but I'm like here to explain and reason, you know, what my position is and explain what my position is. But if I go into a conversation with this kind of energy, but the other side is basically there to just like yell and shit, yeah, it's just not, you know, like I can't match the energy with my uncle. I love him. It's not gonna happen. You know, I'm not gonna be combative. The guy I was talking to him, Piers Morgan, was he was like a peanut gallery guy, Vinny from Patrick Bet David. His podcast, like that's a great example. Like that's a person I can like belittle and duke it out with. Yeah. This means the end of Cenksgiving then, yes? No, of course not. I'll still have conversations with Cenk. No, no, we're gonna keep doing Cenksgiving, chat. That's gonna keep happening, you know? You've had heated comments with James before, and it was barely heated from your end, but fair play going in front of 30K. Please never say I am the left. Yeah, no, I don't. Let Unc smoke a joint before or something. Yeah. What is this? The epidemic of white and lonely, right? I don't think I'm gonna watch that. But Unc thought it was on Piers Morgan. You can tell how much of the community is new. Yeah. I think Cenk is the perfect person to have these sorts of conversations with, though, because like he can say anything and everything he wants. I will never not love him. You know what I mean? He's my uncle. So like it doesn't change that dynamic at all for me, even a little bit. Like it's not like it's not ever going to turn into it's never going to sour my relationship with him, you know? What if you call LeBron overrated? Okay, then I have all the smoke. What is this? Jimmy the Giant, the real foreign invasion of Britain. I think you two need a moderator next year, since there were several points you brought up that just never got addressed. Yeah. There is something very funny about like he despises Gavin Newsom and all these like woke progressive DAs or whatever. And I asked him specifically about like Gavin Newsom, who directly participated in like clearing out a homeless encampment, and he was like, it's too little too late. He just did that because people were pressuring him. And it's like, at that point I was like, damn, like you were just right wing on this position. Like that's exactly what a Republican would say. Okay. Like, and it's ironic because like the entire point that I was making is that you can never get right wingers to be on board with your policies. It literally does not matter because they will always turn around and still call you out and say that, nah, you're still in favor of this. And he kind of did that for Gavin Newsom, you know? Gavin Newsom is threatening cities. If y'all don't start clearing encampments, they won't get any money. Yeah. At one point he said he was conservative on laws or judges or something. Yeah, he used that not as a pejorative. That's the thing. He used that as a positive. But yeah, do we have a playlist from Themaces? I don't know if he sent one or not, because if not, I'm going to move into some other stuff. How are you starting up hardcore? When are you starting up hardcore WoW? Right now. Just kidding. Have you heard about the mass automation / layoffs / automation implementation at NBC and CBS? No. Yeah. I did want to watch Ordinary Things: The End of England. Now that I'm going to England, are you upset about Cenksgiving? No, I thought it was decent content. I wish he wasn't. I always get sad when I see you know, my uncle basically come out and yell so much. And there's a reason. What is this? An uncle kicked his nephew's ass on Thanksgiving. John Molera. What is this? ACP. Cenk becoming my favorite lib on the internet is not something I expected to happen this year, but here we are. He essentially got us on to admit what I've been saying about him. He's held captive by the most vocal and woke sections of his audience. Yeah, dude, I should do a podcast with the fucking anti-Semite like Jake Shields instead, so I don't get held captive by my woke audience. Like, these people are so unserious, dude. And they just genuinely cannot understand that these are my opinions. You know what I mean? I yell at my audience on a daily fucking basis. There are plenty of people that are directly that have like the opposite fucking opinion of me on many issues in my community that go above and beyond to be annoying. And I yell at them all the time. Anyone that spent any time in here knows that I don't take kindly to wrecker behavior coming from rad libs in this community. Okay. And yet people don't understand where I'm coming from because I try to offer a little bit more nuance. And that is considered impossible to contend with. No, I'm so captive to my audience. I'm actually secretly right wing on a bunch of shit, but I just maintain this position for no reason, even though, you know, being openly right wing is very beneficial for me. Why the fuck would I not do that if I had that opinion? Like, why wouldn't I do that? It literally does not make sense. Another agency has recorded at least 18 Israeli violations of the ceasefire since it came into effect at dawn on Wednesday and until Thursday night. Oh yeah, the ceasefire is like, oh, the Macy's did send a playlist. Okay, we'll do that. 13 of these violations occurred on Wednesday, the first of which was an Israeli drone attack on a car in Markaba. The violations were tallied from statements by the Israeli army itself and news reports from the national news agency. The Lebanese army confirmed yesterday on Twitter that on November 27th and 28th, the Israeli enemy violated the agreement several times and that the army command is following up on the matter in coordination with the relevant authorities. On Friday morning, the Israeli occupation army opened fire on a number of citizens in Kiam while they were attending a funeral of one of the town's residents. The Israeli army also fired artillery shells and directed machine gun fire at the town of Aita al-Sha'ab. I've heard that they also like fired on journalists as well. So I have seen what's going on in Syria as well, but I feel like that is much more complicated to broach and talk about with like as it's still a developing story. And I need to read more about what's happening there, especially considering that there are numerous parts involved in this and they're all fucking fighting one another. Numerous nations involved in this as well that seemingly even switch sides from time to time. And the rebels themselves, when you look at like the different rebel groups, the different anti-Assad groups, like they vary greatly in their own opinions and the way that they operate. And it's not just like Islamist fundamentalism. I'm talking straight, Salafists as well. But then also Assad is not exactly a wonderful figure either. You know what I mean? And neither is the Turkish government. So it's a ginormous, it's awful. Everything is bad. The Kurds are good though, for the most part. Israel's Ynet published more details on the side letter the Biden administration provided Israel as a part of its effort to rig the ceasefire to ensure that Israel does not actually have to cease its fire. It reportedly says Israel reserves the right to act at any time in southern Lebanon. So I guess America cut a side deal with them. Don't let the nationalist Turks hear you say that. Another group that will call you a terrorist. You think they don't already? Are you kidding me? They fucking do it all the time. Ex Salem, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Nice. Israeli occupation releases 30 Palestinian hostages from the torture camps today through the Kerem Shalom crossing. One of the released Palestinians, the Israeli investigating officer, came to me and said, I want to give you a gift. The gift was that he informed me that they had killed my family. Nice. Okay, the U.S. may share information provided with Israel with the Lebanese government or the committee to allow them to address the violation. The U.S. is committed to cooperating with Israel to curb Iran's destabilizing activities in Lebanon, including preventing the transfer of weapons, affiliates, and others from Iranian territory. The U.S. recognizes Israel's right to respond to threats coming from Lebanese territory in accordance with international law. In the southern region, Israel reserves the right to act at any time against violations of the commitments. Outside the southern region, Israel reserves the right to act against the development of threats directed against it. If Lebanon is unable or unwilling to thwart these threats, if Israel decides to take such steps, it will inform the U.S. this wherever possible. Israeli flights over Lebanon will be conducted for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance purposes only and will not break the sound barrier. Nice. So I guess this sidestep basically is this side deal that they cut with America is only one side gets to cease the fire and the other side gets to do whatever the fuck it wants. A very cool way to do a ceasefire. Very cool way to do the ceasefire. Now it's interesting because I mean, we already know that like Israel responds to force. So this is going to, we'll see. I mean, they were able to successfully decouple Hezbollah from Gaza. That was the original reason why they wanted to pummel Lebanon. And they were able to do that by killing a shit ton of civilians. You know, that's the one speed that Israel has, which is we will keep killing your civilians over and over and over again. And there's nothing you can say about it. And there's nothing you can do about it. I think that they also had some ambitions. 20 tier 2 subs. God damn, Sochi. Thank you. Thank you for the 20 tier 2 subs. That's crazy. But you know, they apply the Dahiyya doctrine and Hezbollah, given that they have you know, civil governance and civil governance interests in the regions that they control, were like, yeah, we can't deal with you guys killing all of our fucking civilians, all of our family members relentlessly, seemingly without end. That they were forced to the table to engage in a ceasefire, but the proposal itself had some extensions that America, I guess, some assurances that America offered to Israel. We'll see where it goes, but it is yet again a clear-cut example that none of these initiatives ever actually end up stopping Israel. It's not to stop Israel at all, even though Israel is the responsible party. Israel is the party that is doing a metric ton more pain, specifically towards civilians too. And yet, the way we analyze it here in the West is always, it's actually the resistance groups that are the bad guys here. You don't understand. Even if they kill significantly less civilians, sometimes not even any civilians at all. It's really, really interesting, really cool stuff here. Very interesting interview with Professor Rashid Khalidi, the author of The 100 Years of Palestine, who recently retired from Columbia. O'Connell asks, and so at what point do we stop talking about America's complicity in the slaughter and begin to talk of America as an antagonist, of America being at war with Palestine? Khalidi says, that has always been my view. When we were negotiating with the Israelis in Washington, I realized that actually the Americans and the Israelis were really on the same side, opposed to us. It was in effect a joint delegation. Now you actually have revelations in the American press of joint targeting and of intelligence operations to find and kill leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas. If you look carefully, you'll see that the United States is actually directly at war. It's an intense high-level collaboration in planning and targeting, not to speak of the fact that virtually every shell, every missile, every bomb is American, and that the Israeli army couldn't go on for more than 3 months without those hundreds of airlifted shipments. So it is participation at an active level without, for the most part, boots on the ground. My cat hates tariffs. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. O'Connell says, usually these kinds of conversations end with the interlocutor asking for some glimmer of hope, but given the current realities, I won't insult you by even going there. Well, if you did, I would say that the shifts in public opinion we've seen in the West where Israel and Palestine are concerned are a harbinger of change. This is how I feel as well, by the way. And I'm reaffirmed in my in not succumbing to nihilism in my perspective here because of just found your channel through PSA. Thanks for the great interview. We need progressive voices more than ever before. Hell yeah. Thank you, Sochi. But yeah, this is why I'm also optimistic as well, in spite of the metric ton of violence that we have seen. It's because I match the public sentiment overall to what I have known my whole life and how different it is. So it's important to remember that. That won't be quick. It'll be harder than Vietnam, harder than Iraq, harder than the change around the apartheid in South Africa. The elites will fight tooth and nail to not change anything. But I think that this ongoing change offers a little bit of hope for the future. If you understand how the Israeli project is intimately and integrally linked to the West, then a shift in Western public opinion sooner or later is going to have an impact on Israel. Israel has always benefited from wall-to-wall support in every Western country with very few exceptions. It had never lost public opinion. It has now lost public opinion. That may change, and evolution is not inevitable. But if that trend continues, things will have to change for the better. However fiercely the pro-Israel elites resist, Israel cannot go on without the complete support of the West. It's not possible. The project doesn't work. We're in a different world than the world we've been in for over a century. And that might be a source of optimism. And that is precisely what I say all the time as well. This is Rashid Khalidi, obviously. The 100 Years War on Palestine is one of his books. He was an Edward Said Fellow at Columbia University, right? Am I saying? Was he an Edward Said Fellow? Well, I mean, he was friends as well with Edward Said, obviously, understandably. Another very important author and an academic for Palestinians. But the book is really good too, and I highly recommend you read it. So, Khalidi gave a talk to New York City DSA recently. Yeah, Rashid Khalidi is amazing. But Said mentioned also Read Orientalism by Edward Said Chatters. Yeah, I mean, Orientalism is a little bit denser of a read, in my opinion, than 100 Years of Palestine. 100 Years War on Palestine. So, 10 Myths is the easiest one to read, but if you want Palestinian authors and Palestinian history, 100 Years War in Palestine is pretty good. Fantastic. Anyway, okay. DSA Dick Sucking Alliance. Good one, man. You got it. We're going to cover the shit show in European elections, Georgia and Romania. Brother, European elections, and then you said Georgia? What's going on? I mean, Georgia and Romania are experiencing the exact same problems right now in their elections, but I wouldn't say Georgia is Europe at this point. Like, come on.
Elect Trump spent Thanksgiving at Mar-a-Lago, where he table danced to YMCA with his self-proclaimed best buddy, Elon Musk. One thing not on the menu, though, the fallout over his threat to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico. ABC's Perry Ressam joins us live from Washington with those details. Good morning, Perry.
Lionel, good morning to you. There appears to be a disconnect over what was said on the call and what both leaders agreed to. Trump has been putting pressure on both Mexico and Canada with these tariffs, all tied to immigration. This morning, President-elect Trump and the president of Mexico at odds over a phone call about immigration. Trump says Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border. Sheinbaum says she told Trump migrant caravans are being stopped before reaching the U.S., saying, "We reiterate that Mexico's position is not to close borders.
We're going to fix our borders."
Immigration, a key issue for Trump on the campaign trail. He is threatening to impose a 25% tariff on goods coming from Mexico and Canada on his first day back in office. Trump blaming both countries for the way.
What do you mean Georgia is not in Europe? I don't know, man. Open up a fucking map. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, saying Georgia's in Europe is like saying Armenia is a European country. The only reason why you think that is because they're Christian, I guess. Say you mean the EU? No, I mean the European continent, dude. What are we talking about? Hello? Do you guys know where Georgia is on the map? What the fuck? Y'all just see? Bro, I swear to God, y'all just see like Christian nation. You see crosses on their flag and you go, oh, they're, that's a European country. Must be. Do you know where Georgia is, chat? Wait, hold on. I don't want to like leak anything. Bruh, That's where Georgia is. Does that look like Europe to you? This is the only part of Turkey that's in Europe. You know that, right? Like this right here, this little thing right here. The rest of Turkey's in Asia too. No, Azerbaijan would not be a European country because it's not Christian. That's the whole point. The reason why people say European country is because they're Christian. That's why. That's it. That's literally it. Anyway, all right. Georgia is Europe, little bro. What? Okay, we're done.
Wave of undocumented immigrants and illegal drugs in the U.S. He says the tariffs will stay in effect until Canada and Mexico solve what he calls a long simmering problem.
So I guess Bosnia and Albania aren't European because they Muslim. First of all, I mean, kind of, yeah. Go ask people in Europe if they think that Bosnia and Albania are European or not. But also, secondly, at least it's on the fucking continent, dude. Like, what do you mean? Yes, it is on the European continent. Having said that, however, because of the fact that they're Muslim, many European nations do wish that they weren't in Europe.
After suggesting Mexico would retaliate.
There is no European continent. Wait, what? Now we're getting into some new theories here, okay?
Against U.S. tariffs with tariffs of their own. Scheinbaum yesterday interrupting a reporter asking about a potential tariff war, saying there will be no potential tariff war.
I hope he rethinks it.
President Biden calls Trump's tariff threats on the U.S.'s North American neighbors counterproductive.
We have an unusual
Technically, Europe is a subcontinent of Eurasia. Okay.
situation in America. We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and two allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships.
Scheinbaum says there will be more conversations before Trump takes office. As for Canada, a government official this week says they are starting to think about tariffs they can impose on the U.S. No final decision has been made.
Now to President Biden weighing in on President-elect Trump's threat to impose stiff tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
Wow, Biden's got strong words for Donald Trump. He said the tariffs are counterproductive. Anyway, he still wants Georgia to join just as Cyprus did, while Albania, Turkey, and Bosnia aren't. EU is basically the Holy Roman Empire at this point. Yeah, it's just okay, we're done. We got to continue. Reminder about the giveaway. Let us know when you want to do it. Yeah, just do it. Just do it periodically. Cenk Fallout, y'all good? Yes, of course we're good. Do it. If you type !enter for the chance to win a prize. Max 1 entry per user. Winner will be selected in 1 minute. Enter now.
Biden called it counterproductive, while Trump insists the move is critical to his border plan. Jay O'Brien is at Mar-a-Lago with the latest. Jay, good morning.
Yeah, Wick, good morning. President Biden pushing President-elect Trump to change his mind about that key campaign promise, a rare move just months before Donald Trump returns to the White House. President-elect Donald Trump spending his Thanksgiving at Mar-a-Lago with close confidant Elon Musk. Two seen here in this video dancing along to the YMCA with Melania and Barron, both at the dinner table. It comes as President Biden has strong words for Trump, calling on him to rethink his threatened sweeping tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada, calling them counterproductive.
We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and two allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships.
The rare critique, a lame duck president criticizing his successor just months out from Inauguration Day, coming on Thanksgiving, where Biden also told reporters he was thankful for a peaceful transition of power. Tariff threats, a central theme of Trump's campaign. Trump recently promising on day one of his new administration he will enact sweeping 25% across-the-board tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada until both countries stop what Trump claims is a flow of drugs and illegal migrants. Accounting for more than $1 trillion in trade every year, Mexico and Canada are the two largest trading partners of the U.S. The tariffs likely to fall back on U.S. consumers who could see rising costs on goods from cars to electronics to fruits and vegetables.
Giveaway alert. Wait, okay. Who won it? Who won the giveaway? Did we choose a winner?
Earlier this week, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking with Trump over the phone, saying it was a good call with the president-elect, but adding this is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do. And Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, who's promised her own tariffs on American imports if Trump follows through with his threat. Now, overnight.
Abe Famet won, and there's a second giveaway happening as well. There's apparently a bunch of giveaways, so keep writing. Congratulations to Babe Famet.
Downplaying the possibility of a trade war between the U.S. and Mexico.
And just days ago, Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum speaking by phone about immigration. Trump claiming that Sheinbaum agreed to stop migrants in Mexico before they reach the border. Effectively, he says, closing the border. But the Mexican president appearing to contradict that, saying that Mexico's position is not to close borders.
And Jay, as we stand by to see how that plays out, we're also learning more about multiple bomb threats made against Democratic lawmakers from Connecticut.
That's right, Whit. At least 5 Democratic lawmakers from Connecticut, including Senator Chris Murphy, had their homes targeted with hoax bomb threats on Thanksgiving. No explosive devices were found. And this morning, the FBI, as well as state and local law enforcement agencies, conducting multiple investigations.
It's so sick that at this point, it's just like, oh, you don't like someone? Bomb threat. You don't like someone? You disagree with them? Time's up. And the winner is Untouched Galaxy. Congratulations. Go to ideology.shop/pages/redeem to claim your prize, Untouched Galaxy. At this point, Republicans have one fucking speed. Like, or it's just American political discourse is basically turned into like, who's going to do more bomb threats over the other? Okay. It's a pretty wild state of affairs. How the fuck did we get here, man? How do we get here? Chat, we're done. Wait another hour or so. Yeah, okay, stop typing enter. We're done for now. Oh yeah, my favorite genre of tweet are American conservatives who bleed about white culture and tradition constantly, who then shriek Satanism when they see what genuine white culture and tradition. It's all aesthetics to these people. Yeah. This is Austria. What's going on? What's going on? What are they doing? What's happening here? What has happened to my beautiful white culture? Americans are such fat little pigs that the only white culture and even their understanding of white culture is basically just an ad from the 50s. Okay. That's it. We have one speed, and that speed is hamburger, okay? They literally don't even do fascism correctly because of how fucking, like, brain broken they are by commodities, okay? America's white culture still is another demonstration of capitalism. Straight up. They literally just look at ads from the 50s and go, oh, where my country gone? Why can't I get back to this? Why can't we get back to this? Yeah, none of this like weird gay satanic shit that they're doing over in fucking Europe. What? Did you mean to embarrass me last night? What are you saying, bro? Please. Oh God. The holiday crowd is always, the holiday crowd goes crazy. Just like a lot of people that forget to take their medication. Anyway, everyone's drunk. Everyone refuses to take their meds. People are in their fucking fields.
Investigations into those threats and others made against several of Donald Trump's cabinet picks this week. Whit.
All right, Jay O'Brien for us. Thank you.
Now to Syria, where opposition.
Oh, also, yeah, we have a new country. Dutch PM Dick Schoof says there may be options for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to visit the Netherlands without being arrested, despite an international criminal court arrest warrant against them. I'm hoping that they're just like baiting him to be like, yeah, please come visit The Hague. Okay. Yeah, it's got to be a trap. Please tell me it's a trap. Please tell me these people did not immediately cave after like a couple phone calls from Big Daddy Biden to be like, no, he can go wherever he wants. Fuck your international laws. Come visit. We ain't going to jump you. Yeah, that'd be sick. There is something so crazy about this, though. Like the fact that France also, after having one phone convo with Joe Biden, was like, yeah, we've actually decided Benjamin Netanyahu can come to France as well. Like they caved. It's just like, what are we doing here? What are we fucking doing here? What a joke, dude. These institutions are like, these countries are such a fucking joke. Good luck. You have no more motion at that point. Your entire society is collapsing. And also, all the while, Lindsey Graham is working on a bipartisan bill. I had a very productive meeting in Israel with Prime Minister Netanyahu, war criminal Netanyahu, and his team about my efforts with my colleagues to make it clear that any country, entity, or person that tries to enforce the ICC's arrest warrants against Israel will pay a heavy price in America. During his administration, President Trump placed sanctions on the ICC for this very reason. Unfortunately, President Biden removed President Trump's ICC sanctions. Yeah, also, it was ICC sanctions placed against one prosecutor. She is no longer the prosecutor. The guy that you want to implement sanctions on, the prosecutor, is your guy. America and Israel backed Karim Khan to be the prosecutor for the ICC. That was their guy. And even their guy's like, yeah, dog, you went too far. Sorry. And now they're like, turns out you're not our guy. You're also getting sanctions. I told the prime minister it is time for Congress to act, making it clear to countries that they face from America if they act against Israel. I believe there are strong bipartisan majorities for such legislation. I also stress that it is Israel today and it will be America next if we don't act. I intend to act to protect Israel and America. I like that we are facing a complete collapse of the international rule-based order, which is like America's most significant soft power capability to make it seem like they're the world police and that they like have morality in mind. They're just completely wiping that. Okay? They're completely casting that aside. They're like, yeah, no, actually, we don't have any of that. We don't give a fuck about that at all, big dog. And you're doing this at a time when, you know, you're literally using the ICC in an understandable and deliberate and in my opinion, valid way against Russia. So like, how do you not understand that you're weakening these institutions and you're weakening the potential soft power capabilities that you might have by destroying these institutions that are supposed to create this like fabric of human rights, or at least like this PR. It's also additionally funny because he keeps saying America is next. Okay. And I find that really funny because that's just an admission that like America does a shit ton of war crimes, which is true. Little by little, one by one, the Rogue West takes shape. Yeah. Like, you don't understand. Are you leaving? Oh, I thought you were, no, I thought you were leaving. Yeah, I was talking to you. No, okay. No, it's all good. Then it's just, I keep repeating this over and over again. I don't think people understand. Like, we have 800 military bases all around the planet, okay? 800 military bases all around the planet can either be viewed as a firmly held security cooperation, international, collaboration, or it can be seen as 800 invasions on foreign soil. The thing that, the fabric that holds all this together is the consensus, is the notion that America is the obviously I know that that's not the case, but like, the idea that America presents as the moral police of the planet, the arbiter of truth and justice and a care and consideration for human rights. That's why they do all this propaganda. So when that falls apart in the eyes of many of these countries, okay, in the eyes of these many different countries all around the world, they're eventually going to be like, okay, well, I'm re-examining my relationship with the United States of America. No one in the rest of the world actually believes that, though. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why do you think that people do PR? Why, like, if it didn't matter and people didn't care about this, why the fuck would America ever do PR in the first place to try to claim that they care about these things, to try to operate within the bounds of international human rights? You care about it so you can use it against, the likes that violate it. Foreign adversaries that are not in the sphere of influence of the West. Okay. And these guys surely do violate it, Assad and Vladimir Putin alike. Okay. So you can use it against them, but you can't use it against them if your guy and yourself are also undermining the very same court that you're using against foreign adversaries. That's it. Like the veil, the mask slips at that point. And it doesn't just slip at that point for the global south. The global south is aware of what the fuck's going on. They're ultimately powerless to do anything about it. But when the mask slips in the Western world, when the populations of the Western world start reckoning with American imperialism, American intervention, and how all of these like important organs of international justice that are tasked with upholding some kind of international rule-based order, when they recognize, oh my God, none of this shit actually is working, none of this shit is real at all, that's going to cause complications. That's going to cause instability. Okay. And in that instability, a lot of anti-Western sentiment and maybe even pro-Russian sentiment, for example, will make up for that inconsistency and that hypocrisy, especially when paired with austerity and the economic volatility that clawing back social safety nets creates. Okay, you're seeing stuff like that already happen in places like Romania, and it will inevitably. I mean, it is already inevitably making its way into the Western, into our Western European allies as well. Does that make sense? Anyway, anyone remember when Hassan had a personality is soulless rambling now? Wait, what? 2 hours in and you still haven't covered any real news? What do you mean by that? I think once again, it's holiday season, baby. You know how it is. All right. Rebels claim to have entered Syria's second largest city.
Forces say they have entered Aleppo after rebels launch a surprise offensive in the government-controlled city for the first time in years. A statement by
apparently some of these dudes were like trained by Ukrainian special forces too,
newly
right?
formed rebel umbrella coalition says clashes with Syrian forces intensified overnight into Friday morning. The rebels and Bashar al-Assad's regime had agreed to a ceasefire mediated by Russia and Turkey in March 2020. CNN's senior international correspondent Ben Wiedemann has covered Syria extensively over the course of his career. He joins us now to give us some perspective on the latest development. Ben, this is the first major escalation in Syria in around 7 years. Rebels claiming to have taken control of Aleppo's western countryside. What is the latest?
Yes, what we're hearing from Aleppo is they've now entered the new Aleppo neighborhood.
Yeah, no American or Israeli involvement at all. First of all, Turkish involvement is American involvement. Turkey is NATO. Turkey does not do anything in this region without America's go-ahead, which literally includes giving, selling oil that ISIS was extracting, okay? So the idea that, like, this is happening without... I know you're being sarcastic, sorry. I'm just using you as a jump-off point. But the idea that, like, all of this stuff happens without... Like, once again, there are very valid reasons for... for Syrians to you know, fight back against Assad. Okay, it's just true. Having said that, the some of the groups, at least like the Turkish-backed groups, are not exactly great either. Okay, like when they say rebels, it comprises of a group of people that includes, you know, American-trained Kurdish militias that are secular or, you know, communist, all the way to, like, it depends. It depends on which group you're talking about and what you're talking about, all the way to Al-Qaeda adjacent Salafists. Okay? Now, a lot of the Islamist rebel groups are, also... No, it doesn't include rebels. The rebels are the FSA. Kurds are another thing. Yes, but I'm saying that, like, there's opposition forces on every side of this that ranges in ideology for different parts of Syria.
Neighborhood, as well as the Hamdaniya neighborhood on the western side of the city. This comes after they launched this sort of coalition of rebel groups led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is a rebel group that at one point was affiliated with Al-Qaeda, but they launched this lightning offensive on Wednesday, and since then they've taken, according to them, 63 villages to the west of Aleppo, which of course is a...
I do think it's kind of funny when, listen, all I'm going to say is when you see people with guns going Allahu Akbar with Arabic lettering bands that they're wearing, and the American government is on board with them and showing them as like a good thing. It's just kind of funny to think about that from the perspective of how they interpret and analyze the very similar images with genuinely different goals and genuinely different ambitions, mind you. But I never thought that it would be the 90s again, where I would see big bearded militia guys getting positive coverage on American mainstream news,
Is Syria's second largest city, and they say they have now entered the western edge.
How are these guys immediately identifiable as freedom fighters with the PFLP and PLO weren't? Yeah, no, they're not, because they're bad.
Of the city. This is an offensive that comes after keeping in mind, of course, that the rebels lost control of most of Aleppo back in 2016. And there's been basically a stalemate since March of 2020 when Russia and Turkey worked out a ceasefire agreement for the northern part of of Syria. Now, there have been clashes among the rebel groups themselves, but it appears that they've put their differences behind, perhaps to exploit the fact that, for instance, Hezbollah, which was a major backer of the regime of Bashar al-Assad, essentially pulled out of Syria starting in October of last year when they focused their fire on Israel. And of course, other backers of the Syrian regime, for instance, Iran has been distracted by its involvement in hostile activities with Israel, and Russia has been distracted by its war in Ukraine. And therefore, perhaps these rebel groups are seeing this as a golden opportunity to target a weakened Syrian regime, a regime that doesn't have the kind of backing that it enjoyed going back to, for instance, 2015, when the Russians became directly involved in bolstering the regime of Bashar al-Assad. So certainly this does represent a dramatic change on the ground in an area where the Syrian regime was starting to feel fairly confident. They've been trying to rebuild parts of old Aleppo that were severely damaged in the civil war that's been going on there since 2012. But it does appear that the regime has been taken by surprise by this rebel offensive. Eleni?
Indeed. I mean, a huge surprise.
I'm sorry for being dumb. Did I miss some context? Is it good for bad for Syria? There's nothing good for Syria. Syria is cooked and will continue to be cooked because Assad is not a good guy, but these rebel forces are also not exactly great. The only other the regional actor in this process is Turkey, which is operating at the behest of American foreign intervention, or at least working within the confines of what America allows it to do so, whether it be complete control over the northern Syrian corridor, where they engage in a whole bunch of bombing campaigns and military actions against the Kurdish villages and the Kurdish militias that are there fighting against the Turkish government. Some of the groups that Turkey backs in this process are also like direct, Salafist, former Al-Qaeda militants and shit like that. So there is no good immediate resolution for Syria, no matter what. Also, people will interpret this as like, Hezbollah has been aligned with Assad, and so is Russia aligned with Assad as well. So it's you can look at it from many different angles. It could be a proxy war between U.S. and Russia with a civil war slammed into the middle of it. It is truly devastating for Syria, no matter what.
And they're calling it a shock offensive. What is their aim, Ben? And as you say, they're feeling emboldened now that Hezbollah and Iran are distracted with their own worries, specifically in what we're seeing in Lebanon. So what is their aim right now?
Well, what they've said, this Military Operations Command, which is the name of this umbrella for this coalition of rebel groups, they said that their aim was to stop Russian and Syrian regime forces.
What? POTUS today bought Rashid Khalidi's The 100 Years War on Palestine. Wow, man, he's gonna get woke. he's gonna learn today. He's gonna learn a lot. Yeah, little late for that, don't you think, Biden?
Is from targeting.
Oh yeah, look at this map. You got the Syrian regime, you have the Syrian rebels, you have Kurdish forces, and then you have Turkey-backed forces, and then you have the U.S. partner forces, and you have Islamic State fighters. Look at this map and tell me this is a good situation. We just can't leave anything the fuck alone, okay? We just can't. It's like, it's Iraq, it's Afghanistan, it is oversimplified, but why is our ally Turkey fighting the other ally, the Kurds? Because America doesn't give a shit about the Kurds that much. Because Turkey is a established state and the second largest military in NATO. So America will always use the Kurds. They will arm them. We will give them weapons. We will give them training, and we'll use them as a tool. We'll use them as a militia to sick on everyone in the region if we want to, if we choose to. And the Kurds are like, we're 35 million displaced. We do not have a nation state for ourselves in this entire region. Parts of the Kurds live in, Syria. Parts of the Kurds live in Iraq. Parts of the Kurds live in Turkey. So they don't have like a nation state, and understand, and Iran as well. So for them, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll take the weapons. Thank you. Like, it doesn't even matter. That's why America was working with, Kurds in Rojava that were doing an international communist call to arms and training them. America doesn't give a fuck as long as it aids and abets the destabilization until it becomes a large problem, until it becomes like a real problem for them. In which case they will then fund the Islamists, which they are, by way of Turkey, and sick them on the Kurdish militias that they previously were funding and offering logistical support to. How is Turkey different from the U.S.-backed forces on this map? It's not. Turkey's interest is potentially to maintain the northern Syrian corridor, as you can see here, okay? And then inevitably overtake more and more of that territory, and then potentially engage in a population transfer, or at least I think that was the initial goal. I don't know if they're actually going to continue along with that goal, where they would displace the Kurds that were living in the villages and create villages that are basically controlled by, like, to some degree controlled by Turkish governance, like put muhtars in positions of power in local governments, and repopulate the area with not with Turks, of course, but with Syrian Arab Syrians that have been displaced that now live in Turkey. That was their goal, and their reasoning for this. I don't agree with this, by the way, but their stated purpose for this was to maintain security in their southern border, right? State shit. America's very aware of this goal and is seemingly on board with it because Turkey is a NATO ally. Turkey is the second largest military in NATO, so they get to do this kind of stuff.
Idlib province.
Yeah, the Turkish-backed forces are actually interesting as well, because on the one hand, Turkey actually is getting closer and closer to China in economic development, but also on the other hand, some of the Turkish forces are Turkmen forces from other Turkic nations that have been trained by the Turkish military, including but not limited to Uygur separatist forces that are some of them are even Islamist, as a matter of fact. So while they're on the one hand, they're training Turkic forces like the Uyghurs from Xinjiang all the way from China that are now fighting in Syria. And that's a tiny number. It's not a massive number of people. On the other hand, they are also getting closer to China in economic cooperation. There's now an EV factory that I believe is being built in Turkey as well. So once again, Turkey is playing all sides to come out on top. That's the Erdogan move. Because also Turkey is aligned with Russia on certain economic partnerships, but also simultaneously funding Ukrainian resistance against Russia. Bayraktar, the very famous drone that Turkey created, has played a very important role in Ukrainian defense. So it's truly an interesting. Turkey is really an incomprehensible, oftentimes, and very interesting partner in this process. What is this? But yeah, once again, you must remember they are at the table. How is Turkey able to do that? Mexico starts building Chinese factories and everyone loses their minds. I mean, I don't think America likes that Mexico is building Chinese factories either. But also, Turkey is really far away from the United States of America. Why do Turks think you support the PKK? Because you support Kurdish emancipation? I think it's funny because I think there is one guy who supports the PKK openly that is unique. That was unexpected. Am I crazy? Didn't Bahçeli? Wait, hold on. Yeah. So the Turkish ultranationalist movement, also known as MHP, okay, is an incredibly far-right anti-Kurdish paramilitary group that was created by the CIA. Okay? Just remember, if you want to understand how fucking complicated this situation is and how insane this situation is, okay? That guy on the right is Devlet Bahçeli, okay? His entire political movement was designed by NATO as a Turkish Gladio, okay? Basically, the ultranationalist movement in Turkey is a complete American project. These are the Grey Wolves. These are the guys that do this, okay? So he is the last guy that you would expect to say something like this. PKK's leader, Öcalan, Abdullah Öcalan, who is in perma-jail in Turkey. Recently, Erdogan's ally, the ultranationalist, Devlet Bahçeli, came out and made a call for the government to allow the pro-Kurdish party to meet with the jailed PKK leader Öcalan, despite the ongoing crackdown on Kurdish politicians since his calls last month. Your streams make me realize how much my education failed me. No, you don't need to know all this shit, dude. Come on. This is definitely way more fucking complicated than any number of things that schools could teach you. Okay? It's like, this is the obscure Warhammer lore of politics. Yes.
Province and parts of western Aleppo province that are under the rebel control, that they've been targeted by Russian and regime artillery and airstrikes. So they say that the purpose was to put an end to those strikes, but clearly they see that the regime is feeling exposed, that it doesn't have the kind of backing that it had until quite recently, and clearly they're seeing that this is an opportunity to go after, to try to retake Aleppo, which, of course, keep in mind, it's not only the second largest city in Syria, it really is the industrial heartland of, rather the industrial sort of center of Syria, and it would be
Oh, no, I didn't leave that out. I brought that up too, sorry. You leave out Russia and IRGC directly helping SAA and fighting for the regime. No. That's why I said it could be determined as a proxy war as well. So no, I didn't bring that. I didn't forget that. I actually did bring it up. That is the other side of the equation. But no, I did. I brought it up originally when I was trying to display the different sides in play.
A major achievement for them to retake that city, and after a period when it was thought that the opposition was essentially isolated in Idlib province, and the regime was slowly regaining control of some of the country. Keep in mind, of course, that Syria.
Yeah, we'll refer to Charles Lister's analysis on this. He's the director of the Middle East Institute Syria program. He goes into detail about the different forces and their background, ideological and the like.
Yeah. In addition to the rebels, there's a Turkish military presence, an American military presence, a Russian military presence. Basically, the country is cut up in pieces, and the regime's control, at the best of times, has been tenuous in many parts of the country.
Ben Wiedemann, always great to see you. Thank you so much.
I think a major part of this has been that Assad captured Aleppo with massive Russian air power and Iran-aligned militias such as Hezbollah in 2016. Now Russia is tied down in Ukraine, and Hezbollah just fought a bruising war with Israel and Lebanon. They're not here to help this time. Yeah, no, that definitely plays a role here. Like that, I think this is seen as an opportunity for all of the anti-Assad forces in the region, and also any kind of like Western interference in the region, because I guess. What's the opposite? Eastern interference? Like all these other groups that have normally played a formative role in defending the Assad regime are not as capable at this point. to do so. So everyone is getting their licks in and striking in this moment of opportunity for them. Problem is, you know, and I can't stress this enough, no one involved is good. Like there is no, if you're looking for like a perfect dynamic of heroic figures, like even you know, even people with valid claims against the Assad regime that want to overthrow it are still technically working at the behest of in many instances getting logistical training and support, including but not limited to my friend Brace Belden, who I've had on this broadcast, who literally did go and fight in Rojava against ISIS. Like they got training from CIA, they got training from the United States of America, they got weapons from the USA. Oops.
Ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah is.
Oh, you're out. Thank you for everything. All right. That's a friend of mine. His
is now in its third day and appears to be holding by and large, despite new accusations against both sides. Israel says it thwarted what it called terrorist activity and struck a rocket storage site used by Hezbollah on Thursday. Well, meanwhile, the Lebanese army claims Israel has breached the terms of the ceasefire numerous times since it went into effect on Wednesday morning. Here's the Israeli foreign minister.
What will happen in the ground is the most important thing, and we will not allow to breach the arrangement. We will respond immediately to every violation. We will not let the Hezbollah to go down, to go southern than the Litani River. We will not let Hezbollah to rearm again and build itself as a danger to Israel once again.
People of Lebanon, meanwhile, are desperate for a return to normalcy. Thousands displaced by the 13 months of fighting have started returning to their homes and businesses, many of them destroyed, even as Israel warns that some areas are not safe yet.
Thank God now we're back, and we're back stronger and better than before. We have strength and determination, and we're cleaning up our stores. We will work on getting our businesses back better than before, and don't let the occupation think that it has defeated us.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is sounding more optimistic about a ceasefire in Gaza, but he insists on achieving one of his major goals. Here's what he told Israel's Channel 14.
I'm ready for a ceasefire at any moment, but ending the war, I'm not ready for that, because we also need to achieve the elimination of Hamas.
Meanwhile, Israel's attacks continue. Gaza's health ministry says Israeli bombs killed at least 20 people on Thursday. Several homes in Nusrat were hit, sending dozens of victims.
Before we get back to the Lebanese thing, a broad spectrum of armed opposition groups are involved in the ongoing assault on Aleppo, but make no mistake, it wouldn't be happening if not for HTS, a group I've studied closely for 12 years with some useful articles. Pragmatic jihadists or opportunistic warlord, HTS's Jalani expands its rule in northern Syria. The fight for supremacy in northwest Syria on HTS's break from Al-Qaeda and its wholesale defeat of Al-Qaeda and ISIS in the northwest. We're done with the giveaway. Chat. Who won? The winner is Dezerk. Congratulations, Dezerk. I didn't even know there was a giveaway. Oh man, yeah. People are gifting in the chat. Others to get the merch. Al-Qaeda lost control over Syrian affiliate. The inside story, a lengthy paper revealing exclusive details on HTS's break up from Al-Qaeda. So these guys are former Al-Qaeda. In recent years, HTS has built a semi-technocratic government, the Syrian Salvation Government, with a trained police force, service provision, and an aid sector, health programming, and more. The SSG works directly with the UN aid programming for 2 million IDPs. Beyond governance, HTS has invested heavily in military development since the 2020 ceasefire in northwestern Syria. With intense fighter development and training, multiple SOF-type units were developed for covert ops, lightning raids, nighttime ops, and more. HTS's Asaib al-Hamra force has led daytime advances in recent days, where Saraya al-Harari assumed front lines at night. Every fighter equipped with thermal scopes on assault rifles, sniper rifles, and RPGs, plus night vision equipped ISR drones. HTS and several aligned factions surged money into indigenous weapons development since 2020, into drone tech, Israel or ISR and armed rocketry and cruise missile type systems, all of which have been revealed in use over the past 3 days. It's been game changing. While it's yet to be revealed, I'm told multiple deep tunnels were used to infiltrate regime-held areas of rural western Aleppo in the first stage of the offensive, and covert sleeper cells were activated to attack from the inside Assad-held areas simultaneously. These are the former Al-Qaeda. While the opposition offenses of years past might have demonstrated some success, they were affected by leaks and terrible OPSEC. Past 72 hours have demonstrated a remarkable improvement in control coordinated comms practice that makes a big difference. When COVID first entered Syria in 2020, HTS led the fastest and most efficient health response mask mandate mobile and field clinics through their emergency response committee. The ERC is already clearing up newly captured areas of Aleppo and combing for explosives. For 2 years, HTS's leadership has been trying to rebuild trust with northwestern Syrian minorities, especially the Christian and the Druze. Churches have reopened in Kunaya and Yakubiya in Idlib after rebuilding and repairs by HTS companies. We also have a Golden Kappa train. Oh, Channel 4 did a piece on it as well.
On the move, at pace. For years, the front lines of Syria's civil war have seemed frozen. This week, they've shattered. These are the insurgent fighters of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, listed a terror group by the UN Security Council. Since Wednesday, they've made lightning gains from the forces of the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad and his Russian and Iranian allies, seizing dozens of villages, closing in on the big prize, Aleppo.
These are areas where the Iranian militia and the Assad militia were stationed and were bombing civilians. And now, praise be to God, after their expulsion from these areas, God willing, the civilians will return to their homeland.
This evening, HTS fighters had reached the center of Aleppo, removing the Syrian flag flying next to a statue of Assad's brother. Regime defenses reported to have withdrawn in disarray. But from the air, Syrian and Russian planes and drones have been fighting back. The UN says 27 civilians have been.
This isn't direct CIA. This is a cutout from Turkey. It is still CIA, but it's CIA and Turkey by way of Turkey.
Killed in the renewed fighting. Aid agencies say 14,000 people have been displaced. If the speed of this assault has surprised, it hasn't come from nowhere. Last month, the UN Special Envoy to Syria warned of the risk of a military, economic and humanitarian storm breaking there. While Bashar al-Assad has been readmitted to the Arab Leaders Club here in Riyadh this month, his key military allies have been distracted.
I'm laughing because seeing Western media look at former Al-Qaeda guys, okay, and being like, look at these brave rebels is once again a somber reminder that it just doesn't matter. I just spent the last 12 months trying to explain to people how Islamist fundamentalism is not a key factor in Hamas's development, okay, and how they have a singular goal of ending the siege, ending the apartheid, and ending the occupation, and liberating Palestinians from the Israeli apartheid. And regardless of their tactics, or regardless of how my disagreements that I might have with, some of the leadership or whatever the fuck, that goal still remains. And yet, the way you look at it, they're like, Hamas is ISIS. The way Americans look at it is like, nah, you don't understand. Hamas is ISIS. Hamas is ISIS. And then now we look at actual ISIS style guys and we're like, no, these are the brave rebels. Something doesn't add up in the way that the media is messaging.
By their own concerns, Russia with Ukraine, Iran with Israel. Israel has also been intensifying its strikes on Iranian and Hezbollah targets inside Syria, further opening up opportunities for the anti-regime militias. Rebel stronghold of Idlib has, though, been under heavy attack from the air. This war, never fully dormant, is now resurgent. And even as Syrians in Aleppo celebrate tonight the ejection of regime forces, they know from bitter experience just how much deadlier things can still get from here.
Yeah. Gulf/Israel funded fighters good, Iran allied fighters bad. Yeah, it just doesn't fucking matter, dude. No matter what happens, just regular Syrian people get killed in the process, destroyed in the fucking process. Barack Ravid with a scoop. Trump wants a deal to release the hostages and ceasefire in Gaza before he takes office. A close associate of President-elect Republican Senator Lindsey Graham told me. All my details in the article on Walla News. Interesting. Yeah, we always pick and choose when it comes to these rebel groups. We did the same with the Mujahideen in the 80s. It's only if they fight our enemies for us and they don't care if free or not. And like Afghanistan is actually a perfect example of this as well, because the Afghan government itself, the communist aligned Afghan, USSR aligned Afghan government was also fucking ruthless and brutal. So brutal that the USSR itself was intervening against the USSR aligned government at the time. But then so were the Russians. When they went into Afghanistan, they were also fucking ruthless. And then America, that had already primed and radicalized and funded and given training and weapons to these Mujahideen groups, then inevitably played a major role in the creation of the Taliban, which then, succeeded as the Afghan government. Then another one of these guys that we had trained and funded and facilitated and helped decided, I actually don't really like that America is interfering in the affairs of the Middle East. So I'm going to go and do 9/11. And that's precisely what happened. Okay. Former rebel / good guy, communism killer, turned into the arch terrorist of all time after doing 9/11. His name was Bin Laden. Okay. And it's like, I can talk about the history of these things over and over and over again, and it doesn't fucking matter to people. They do not care. They do not understand it. Or rather, they find it to be too complicated, or rather, they want to just see good, bad dynamics at play. Quick PBS report, an interview with Jelani, the head of HTS in Idlib.
I came to this story.
Like, if I was playing this on mute with no subtitles, you'd be like, oh, these are bad guys. Like, that's what Americans are primed into thinking. Okay? And in some respects, they're not good guys either. Okay? But they happen to be guys that are against the other bad guys that we don't like.
Fully aware of the controversy it would generate, I would be speaking to a designated terrorist. But after 20 years of covering the region, I thought this was an important opportunity. Since bin Laden in 1998, no senior al-Qaeda leader has agreed to a televised interview with a Western reporter. Today, Jelani, who says he's long since broken with al-Qaeda, controls Syria's last opposition strong.
He said that was the old me, man. That was the old me. Chill.
A safe haven for refugees from around the country. If he falls, many more migrants could flood north.
Bro, calm down. We did a little bit of that, what they call terrorism. Okay, chill out.
Jelani's 10,000-plus man army, effectively backed by Turkey, is now the only thing that prevents it. There are some people in Washington who think it may be wise to work with Jelani, including a top American diplomat.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. Interesting. So they're backed by Turkey, but then they're like, well, some in the Washington consider it to be wise to actually back those guys. Okay, you already said that America is backing those guys. Turkey's backing those guys. That's it.
In the region during the Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations. James Jeffrey.
Look, he's the least bad option of the various options on Idlib, which is one of the most important places in Syria, which is one of the most important places right now in the Middle East. And there is.
Are we considering al-Qaeda good now? Is America's position that al-Qaeda is good? Yes, they are. And it's funny because like a lot of the shit and a lot of the opinions and a lot of the things that these guys have done are like straightforwardly worse than anything. This is what they claim Hamas is doing, but they don't have any kind of fucking similar nuance in the way that they interpret Hamas's actions or any number of different like Palestinian resistance groups. They're all terrorists. Their family members also terrorists. They all need to die. That's it.
Not the normal setup of nation states and of international norms and rules. You wind up with.
You act like America directly funds these guys, but forget that Russia and Iran directly fought them in Syria without any American aid in terms of air support or the same amount of weapons like Ukraine. Wait, no, I'm not forgetting that. Why do people keep talking? I'm talking about America's intervention in the region, and everyone immediately goes, well, what about Hezbollah and Russia? Yes, they are the guys who are backing the Assad regime, and they're the ones who are fighting against these guys. I wrote plenty. Sadly, the revolution got diluted with so many foreign players that that want their own interests in the region. It doesn't matter who backs who. We need to understand that the start of this was a revolution against a dictator who used chemical weapons to genocide his own people. Now, however, foreign countries pick sides for their own interests. It's very well known that the dictator of Syria committed crimes against my people, my family included, were killed with chemical weapons. And we know what happens in the face of massive oppression. Conservative groups rise to prominence and poor majority cling to them for hope. Please make it obvious that Assad, backed by Iran, literally kills so many innocent Syrians, my family included. It is so unfair for people to misunderstand the beginning of this revolution. The main point of contention is Assad being a sadistic dictator that held Syria for years and people had enough. Sadly, he went to Iran and Russia for help, and people started thinking because Iran helps him, he's good. It's really not that simple. I don't think it's. I am saying that it's not that simple. We're not in disagreement as far as the analysis. Like, I'm not one of these like Assad is the line of Syria. Assad is a good guy. Like, I mean, I meme about that shit. Allah Surya Bashar, but no, I'm not like I'm not a pro-Assad person, but I'm also not pro-Turkey in this situation either. So, like, the way I interpret Assad is not dissimilar to the way I look to Saddam Hussein or even late-stage Gaddafi. All of these guys have done a bunch of fucked up things, but they were in the crosshairs of America. They were in the crosshairs of Western interest, and in their absence, I mean, you can look to Iraq and what happened in Iraq. You can look to what happened in Libya. Like, the efforts always should be not to interfere or intervene with direct military involvement, beef up and radicalize different militant factions, because ultimately it always turns into instability and more violence and a significantly worse outcome for the populations overall. And all that chatters describes the correct critique of Assad regime to hide behind their support of terrorists. They're too pussy to say it out loud. Anyway.
Groups like this that do things you don't like, but in the here and now are the folks you have to deal with to avoid even worse things.
How can you trust somebody that's just trying to survive and continue to remain in power?
There are people that have met with Jelani who are saying we should give him a chance.
I think it's letting him and the organization off the hook.
Aaron Zelen, editor of Jihadology.
I spent 7 days in Idlib, seeing, of course, what Jelani wanted me to see and hearing what he wanted me to hear. I also spoke to his critics and his victims. Jelani told me that we don't torture. There is no torture in our prisons.
That's a difficult one to believe.
Come on, dude. He's like, Jelani told me he loves gay people. I like that. Given the normative violence that exists in the area, you change the standards a little bit. Like, they're one step removed from pink washing, which is no torture washing.
I mean, we have testimony that says otherwise.
Jelani, they say, is a man that can't be trusted. I've come here to investigate.
Wait, did they do it? Oh, this is June. Wait, where's the full one? I want to watch the jihadist. Mohammed al-Jelani, a former leader of an al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria, is one of the most wanted men in the world. I mean, there's journalistic value here. Oh yeah, no, I'll never discount people going and interviewing literally, leaders of al-Qaeda. Even I've talked about like the importance of even interviewing someone like Osama bin Laden. They're trying to Lufify him, the most wanted man in the world. No, it's like my naysayers that fucking yelled at me for interviewing a Yemeni teenager who said he wasn't a part of the Ansar Allah family or the political movement is cannot hold a candle to what kind of positive coverage you're getting all the way back in 2021 of a guy who was an Al-Qaeda leader.
He waged jihad in Iraq and Syria, accused of terror and torture.
You're a wanted man. There's a $10 million price tag on your head.
A former Al-Qaeda commander says he's changed, speaking to a Western reporter for the first time.
How is it that somebody is going to want to trust you?
Now on Frontline, correspondent Martin Smith investigates.
PBS is a major anti-Semitism problem? No, dude. These groups are not anti-Israel yet. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't be in the future. But right now, not only are these groups not anti-Israel currently as it stands, but dare I say, maybe even pro-Israel, as a matter of fact, or at least other affiliates.
A jihadist.
I'm flying over southern Turkey. I'm on my way to Syria to meet one of the most wanted men in the world.
You have not spoken to an American reporter in the past. So why have you chosen now to speak to the United States? His name is Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani. As a former al-Qaeda leader, the U.S. has a $10 million reward for information leading to his capture. He heads the Organization for the Liberation of the Levant, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the most powerful.
Yeah, his name is Jawlani, means Golani. His family are from occupied Syria and Golan Heights.
Powerful Islamist faction in Syria. He has agreed to meet because he is trying to overhaul his image. In the past, he's battled Americans in Iraq. He's deployed suicide bombers in Syria. And to this day, he stands accused of imprisoning and torturing his critics.
You're recognized, you're designated as a terrorist by the United States, by the United Nations, by many governments. What do you say to them?
This dude gave up $10 million to not give him up to the U.S. Remember that. Brother, what are you talking about? Why do you think PBS is doing a somewhat positive piece on him? He's not getting fucking arrested by our guys. He is our guy.
We sat down together in a secure location in Idlib province in northwest Syria. He insists that today Americans should trust him.
Why does he want it? Because he's an Al-Qaeda leader, brother. Al-Qaeda, you know, the guys who did 9/11.
Pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda. You worked with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the emir of ISIS. So for you to say...
Oh, yeah, that too.
...that you were not committed to fighting Americans when that's in your past is impossible for people to understand.
I'm not going to say anything. Do they show blood on this? I don't know. They might.
Al-Qaeda, the local insurgency.
Why did they join Al-Qaeda? That's the question. Bro's about to be like, listen, the material circumstances are what radicalized these people into joining. Material circumstances are what radicalizes people into joining Al-Qaeda, which is a bad group. I've decided it's a bad group now. I've seen the light. My bad for ever being anti-America. They were the good guys all along.
I came to this story fully aware of the controversy it would generate. I would be speaking to a designated terrorist. But after 20 years of covering the region, I thought this was an important opportunity. Since bin Laden in 1998, no senior al-Qaeda leader has agreed to a televised interview with a Western reporter. Today, Jawlani, who says he's long since broken with al-Qaeda, controls Syria's last opposition stronghold, a safe haven for refugees from around the country. If he falls, many more migrants could flood north. Jawlani's 10,000-plus man army, effectively backed by Turkey, is now the only thing that prevents it. There are some people in Washington who think it may be wise to work with Jawlani, including a top American diplomat in the region during the Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations, James Jeffrey.
Look, he's the least bad option of the various options on Idlib, which is one of the most important places in Syria, which is one of the most important places right now in the Middle East. When there is not the normal setup of nation states and of international norms and rules, you wind up with groups like this that do things you don't like, but in the here and now are the folks you...
I just want to point out once again that you would never hear an American person, like an American in a leadership position, say this about Hezbollah or Hamas or any number of different groups that are within the axis of resistance against America and Israel. They will never offer any sort of nuanced perspective on how people get radicalized or how people behave in the ways that they do, and lesser evil voting or anything like that. Is this like Azov Battalion fighting Russia, or is it different? It's I think it's closer to, I mean, it's early Azov Battalion. It's back when America used to criticize the Azov Battalion, and now it's different. Now the dynamic is different. It's more, it's if you want to point to something that is like that existed in history. It's closer to the Mujahideen. Some of the groups were literally, I mean, they weren't secular, but they were way more progressive, and others were not. Others turned into the Taliban. And not a good comparison at all, Law. Wait, what? You don't think it's a good comparison to compare them to the Taliban? I mean, they also factor in civil governance, but so did ISIS at a certain point. So, yeah, kind of feels like how ISIS came about, originally a Western-backed offshoot of Al-Qaeda. I'm just trashing you on his channel right now. Your interview with Pod Save America is triggering him so bad. Who cares, man? What the fuck? That interview literally got to the #1 podcast. Like, oh man, I'm sorry that a fucking former COD guy is triggered by this interview because of the things I'm saying in it. I'm like, what?
You have to deal with to avoid even worse things.
How can you trust somebody that's just trying to survive and continue to remain in power?
There are people that have met with Jelani who are saying we should give him a chance.
I think it's letting him and the organization off the hook.
I spent 7 days in Idlib, seeing, of course, what Jelani wanted me to see, and hearing what he wanted me to hear.
Can't compare to Taliban. I draw the line of suicide bombers amidst local citizens. Wait, what? Zero circumstances cause a bloody day every week in Iraq for 10 years. I can't compare to Taliban. I draw the line of suicide bombers amidst local citizens. It's not fighting back. It's just terrorism. Yeah, I mean, you do realize that there are other resistance groups that have done similar things, right? They have. It's all a matter of, no way, the Jester video came out? Oh my God.
I brought 6.
Oh my God. Finally. Oh my God. Is there any real difference between a suicide bomber among civilians or an American drone hitting a wedding? No. Both are acts of terror to create fear amongst the population. Yes. No. I've never made a I've never distinguished between the two. I always say, if the Taliban have Reaper drones, they'd be striking weddings too. Yeah. Or, I mean, dude, states engage in acts of terror all the fucking time, you know? When states do it and there are foreign adversaries, we call it Bashar al-Assad. When states do it and there are foreign allies, we call it Benjamin Netanyahu. That's the difference. When we do it as the state, we call it liberation. We call it shock and awe, democratizing Iraq. Do you understand? All terror. Just compare Hezbollah's targeting to Israel's not even close. No, there are varying degrees of non-state actors in the region that engage in varying degrees of violence and target civilians. I'm not making a blanket statement comparing Hezbollah's actions in like northern Israel to Israel's actions in fucking southern Lebanon, including in Beirut. Clearly, one side is responsible for a metric ton more bloodshed than the other. But the designation of terrorism is almost only utilized against non-state actors. And also on top of that, hey, listen, Hezbollah killed children too, brother. That's why I said Hezbollah's actions in northern Israel, which, I mean, they did. They actually also bombed that one area in Golan. Some background on HTS. Coincidentally, my work during my master focus on the group. Jelani joined ISIS and was sent by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi to lead their offshoot al-Nusra front in Syria, which is, the guys that Israel does not mind and actually likes. Al-Nusra broke from ISIS and pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda. Al-Nusra then broke from Al-Qaeda and absorbed many other Syrian rebel groups to form Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, which now governs Idlib. Okay, I kind of want to watch the basketball video now, more than I care about watching this Jelani guy. Wait, you got British backup against your naysayers? Oh yeah, I didn't even watch this full video, but I liked it and reposted it. But I didn't even watch this video. Here, let's see what he had to say.
Is consistently smeared as a radical anti-Semitic extremist because he dares to humanize the Palestinian people and their politics, and also because he criticizes Israel in a way that is consistent with the ICC.
You're a deeply unserious person? Yeah, I am.
The Pope, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, and so many other internationally respected human rights organizations. But the streamers, Lonerbox and Destiny, are consistently held up as more reasonable people who deal with Palestine and Israel in a much more balanced way. But here they are with a literal Israeli government propagandist, Elon Levy, a man who was paid by the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu's office to go on British British and Western media so as to lie for the Israeli government and to justify the continual slaughter of Palestinian people. And then, of course, I'm sure as many of you will know, one of the key figures crusading against Hassan has been his former co-host Ethan Klein. And just watch Lonerbox yesterday, the man who was brought on by Ethan to give reasonable opinions about Palestine.
You can get in. I think the American government, I don't know if you know, recently there was like a measure that was taken in October for 2 weeks where Israel basically, the IDF, I think without getting approval from Central Command, basically decided that they were going to surround the north of Gaza, and to do that operation they weren't going to let anything in. Okay, so they did that for about 2 weeks, and I think that was when Kamala Harris came out and said, okay,
damn, bro, he fucking speed fried this. I can't even understand what he's trying to say.
you've got 30 days to fix this, otherwise we're going to reconsider selling arms to Israel. We're going to reconsider our position on aid, and that's a pretty unprecedented thing for America to do. America doesn't talk about reconsidering arms to Israel very often, and then on the very next day, Kogat, the Israeli, basically posted a bunch of videos we all just swinging. So
damn, I don't know what he. Can you slow down the TikTok? I don't think I can. I just genuinely can't even hear what he's saying. Clip in the description? Where? It's not. He's saying the idea of doing the general's plan in northern Gaza was a goof done by one IDF brigade and that Kamala was the one that put a stop to it. Oh, you can slow it down. Hold on. Let's do it.
Pressure. Get in. I think
Co-host Ethan Klein brought
the American government, I don't know if you know, recently there was like a measure that was taken in October for 2 weeks where Israel basically, the IDF, I think without getting approval from Central Command, basically decided that they were going to surround the north of Gaza, and to do that operation they weren't going to let anything in. Okay, so they did that for about 2 weeks, and I think that was when Kamala Harris came out and said, okay, you've got 30 days to fix this, otherwise we're going to reconsider selling arms to Israel.
Okay, first of all, that wasn't Kamala Harris, that was Joe Biden. And secondly, Benjamin Netanyahu didn't do that, and there wasn't a single fucking human rights group on the ground that actually claimed that Israel successfully had followed through on Biden's red line, his second red line. And not only that, but the leaked State Department memo showed that they wanted 350 trucks to go in daily. And not only did Israel cut the aid in the trucks in half, but also was, I think at its peak, allowing only 30 trucks. This was all, this was quite literally answered by the State Department, where a bunch of the State Department journalists at press briefing asked why Biden had not followed through on the red line that they said, why Biden was not enforcing the red line that he said he wanted to do. 50 is the most that they let. Israel lets 58 trucks into northern Gaza, but this is like, once again, they have the aid on the trucks and they only let 50 trucks in. The line that Biden wanted them to enforce was 350 trucks, according to a leaked State Department memo. And yeah, see, Israel allowed 30 trucks of aid to reach northern Gaza on Monday after nearly 2 weeks. And as far as I understand, like the aid that they had was also halved as well.
Israel. We're going to reconsider our position on aid. And that's a pretty unprecedented thing for America to do. America doesn't talk about reconsidering arms to Israel very often.
If you go to Kojat and do the math, the month of November, they're only allowing 80 trucks a day average.
And then on the very next day, Kogat, the Israeli aid distributor agency, basically posted a bunch of videos saying, look, there's a bunch of trucks going into North Gaza. We all just trucks going in. So I think getting government pressure to Israel actually does go a long way. I think
people like...
Yeah, government pressure goes a long way is ridiculous. I mean, look, I'm not going to immediately rush to conclusions and say like he's behaving like a propagandist for the state of Israel by trying to make himself come out like a person who is critical of Israel, but also simultaneously like saying that Israel is a separate actor that is operating outside of the scope of America, and that America has like limitations in terms of what it can and can't say to Israel. But it sure does feel like it, especially when, paired up with the reality that he has, hung out with Elon Levy in Israel alongside Destiny. But on like what he said here, I'm just going to address just what he said here. Okay. It's wrong. Not only did America make serious demands and even said that they would actually deny weapons transfers if Israel didn't follow through on it, because Israel decided they're going to do the final solution in northern Gaza, as you guys know. And Biden, leading up to the election, like so close, 30 days out from the election, basically said, or 20 days out from the election, basically said, oh, I'm enforcing a 30-day line, a red line, where you can't deny aid going into northern Gaza. And Israel did not follow that enforcement at all. And also, the very fact that Biden knows that he could apply this kind of pressure by saying we're going to refuse weapons transfers, that in and of itself is already, that means that they know the kind of, they know the mechanisms of enforcement. They know the kind of influence that they hold over Israel. It's ridiculous. It's all just aesthetic posturing from the Biden campaign, from the Biden administration, to make it seem like they're trying to do something. It's no different than the fucking Gaza pier. They built that so that they could claim that like they were doing their very best to render aid to the Palestinian population, because everybody understands that it is a clear-cut direct violation of human rights law to refuse to render aid and allow humanitarian aid to go to a civilian area. Okay? It's just, that is like the definitional number one no-no. It's so glaringly obvious that the person, the founder of Human Rights Watch, who originally is not exactly critical of Israel and was actually on board with Israel's military actions in the immediate aftermath of October 7, changed his perspective publicly and said Israel is doing a genocide, specifically because of the reality that they are refusing to allow humanitarian aid to go in to parts of Gaza, specifically safe zones. Okay? That's it. It is such an obvious violation of human rights that it is one of the factors that the American State Department is supposed to consider when invoking the Leahy Law. What is this? Yeah, here it is. Human Rights Watch founder changes mind on Israel genocide charge. The co-founder of Human Rights Watch, whose German Jewish parents had to flee Nazi Germany, told CNN he now believes Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. Arieh Nair, who was also the head of the American Civil Liberties Union, previously didn't believe Israel's military actions on Gaza could be considered a genocide, but he changed his mind after witnessing how Israel has systematically deprived Gaza's civilian population of food and water. So it's, it's not something that you can, not exactly something you can argue against. At best, you can be like, oh, America's trying their best, but they're just failing to do so. But I think adults understand, like if you're even remotely reasonable, you understand that America wants Israel to do these things, even if they are, even if they're incurring severe penalties for it in the form of losing social capital.
People like this are willing to say and do absolutely anything to justify Israel's crimes. Look at the way he tries to claim, oh, it wasn't actually the Israeli government who decided to siege and starve northern Gaza, as if Netanyahu and the other...
How are they losing social capital? How is America losing social capital on the global stage by aiding and abetting Israel's genocide? What do you mean? You have tens of thousands of people fucking protesting in the streets in the Western world. That is like unheard of against Israel. That's, that kind of pressure inevitably creates a fraction in Western governance between what their politicians are saying and doing and what the public wants and demands. Okay? When you sit there and you undermine the UN and you undermine ICC and you undermine the ICJ, you are withering away at your soft power capabilities. You're withering away your diplomatic capabilities. Ironically enough, this is something that Joe Biden actually said he was never going to do, and actually was going to do the exact opposite. He was saying that America was headed down a dangerous path with Donald Trump, which I did agree with to a certain degree. Wait, are you saying that the U.S. wants the genocide? I've been operating on the assumption that they don't want the genocide, but also don't care if it happens. No, I'm saying that there are things that Israel gets to do that America doesn't like, okay? Like spying on American state assets, right? Like America doesn't like that, okay? Stealing sensitive information from the CIA, for example. America's not fond of that sort of thing. Or even creating surveillance technology such as Pegasus that they give to everyone and anyone. Sometimes people that America doesn't want to have that kind of surveillance technology. Now, having said that, why is Israel allowed to do this? Is it because Jewish people have magical mind control powers? No, of course not. Okay? It's because Israel is given that bandwidth to do those things because Israel is a very important asset for American imperialism in the region. Okay, America, just like the rest of the Western world historically, have had designs for this region. All of the nation states that you see in the region were directly drawn by Western imperialist forces. Okay, they were, and they were designed in a way where there was always supposed to be sectarian infighting. Okay, whether it be Lebanon, whether it be Syria, whether it be Jordan. Okay, these states were designed specifically so there was always ethnic strife, always ethnic tension, always religious sectarian differences that would cause destabilization, because destabilization ultimately is very beneficial for Western states in this resource-rich region, Western states that want to control this resource-rich region. Okay? Imagine being a ban-avoiding racist. Lol, racist streamer. Local racist streamer. Local racist streamer. Oh, fuck me. I didn't mean local. What? What is he trying to say? Why do I read the most unhinged chatters? Because I like it. Anyway, he's saying I'm loco. Anyway, where was I? What was I talking about? I'm forgetting.
Others at the top don't know what's going on, and it's just being carried out by a few rogue commanders. And when you listen to what he's saying about how Israel approved aid and that US government pressure worked, no it didn't. Israel did not meet the deadlines that the US government set. And what you should be focusing on in this conversation are the actual...
Oh, Israel's bandwidth to do what it wants. Yes, Israel is more valuable of an asset as it is a settler colonial project in its inception. Israel is a more significant asset in the region than any number of these different countries that could actually succumb to the whims of sectarian violence and maybe even a revolution. Historically speaking, some of these Arab countries have even tried to align with the USSR, for example. Big no-no, okay? Israel, on the other hand, has always been loyal to Western interests. And Israel, especially in the aftermath of the dissolution of the apartheid state of South Africa, has learned very important lessons, such as making themselves so entangled with Western enterprise that it is impossible to divest. Israel has also spent a good deal of money in that time frame to do a shit ton of positive PR. So it is an invaluable ally in the eyes of the United States' State Department. Okay? Now, that doesn't change the reality that sometimes, because it goes so far in its endless bloodshed and its endless destabilization, that there are people within the State Department that want to continue American dominance in the region that are directly at odds with how hard they want to let Israel go. Okay? That's why you see all the people who resigned, for example, from the State Department and have continued to resign since October 7. Israel also is a testing ground for all of the most nefarious and insidious forms of dominance against a civilian public. Israel gets to be our war factory. Gaza specifically gets to be our war factory, a weapons lab. Israel gets to be a laboratory for unique different methods of dominating a population. It serves many different interests that America has. Just like Turkey, by way of NATO, serves America's purpose in the region in a very similar capacity, right? Because people always ask, Hassan, like, people always claim I'm not critical of the Turkish involvement in Syria, and I am, which is ironic because all those people then turn around and say I'm a fucking Assadist, ironically enough. But Turkey gets to, for example, bomb the northern Syrian corridor into oblivion and completely enforce control over it, because even in certain instances, accidentally blow up American positions, for example. And why does it get to do that? Well, sometimes deconfliction doesn't work in the ways that it's supposed to, but why does it get to do that? Because it's America's weapon in the region. Same with Israel. Israel can blow up a fucking USS carrier, and America will be like, yo, my bad. Why? Because America doesn't give a fuck about its own troops or its own citizens. Like, duh, no shit. America gives a fuck about American foreign interests. America gives a fuck about how much money our corporations in the military industrial complex can make. America gives a fuck about how much our oil producers, our fossil fuel industry, how much money they could make in the region. There's always a bigger picture out there, and Israel plays a very important role in this bigger picture. So make no mistake. That's a bold statement. Yeah, dude, America cared so much about our fucking brave and bold military, our soldiers, our wonderful soldiers, that 22 veterans kill themselves every fucking day when they come back from these parts of the world where they just like engaged in unlimited murder and destruction at the behest of the same interests that I just mentioned, the military industrial complex and the fossil fuel industry. Yeah. They care so much about these soldiers. You simply just say false shit confidently. Sorry, it's no longer 22. You're right. I think it's 14 now. My bad. My bad. Yeah, I know. I read that article too. Fact check, please. Fact check, please. It's no longer 22. The numbers have been reduced. Yeah. Hassan, how good does Dan Clancy's dick taste? Wow. Real cool, man. What happened? I thought he was in love with me. Now you're saying I'm in love with him. Is that what happened? Oh, sorry. It's not 14. It's 17. It's not 22. It's 17. Anyway, so my point is, America obviously doesn't give a shit about its own citizens either. They care about enforcing their they care about engaging in their imperialist desires and in areas where there are resources that must be controlled, that must be extracted. They care about capital. That is the master. So yeah, that's why America lets Israel do whatever the fuck it wants in the area. And I think that a big part of the reason is because we have more important targets in mind. Okay? That more important target that we have in mind is China. And you can't have instability in the region if you have any sort of interest in dealing with China. You can't have instability in the Middle East. You have to, by force, dominate your most important ally's thorn on its side. 5 million people that demand sovereignty, understandably. You can't do that. You have to, destroy them first. You have to engage in maybe population transfer, mass ethnic cleansing. Okay? That's, I think, America's ultimate goal, is to sick Israel on Israel's enemies. And then inevitably, once the region is somewhat stabilized, continue along with the Abraham Accords, normalize relations with all the other client states that already had informal normalized relations, but formalize those normal relations and move on to, Taiwan.
Organizations who are saying that almost no aid is reaching northern Gaza, and that last week Israel denied 82 out of 91 attempts to bring aid to that area. But of course, for Lonabox, he needs to tell you the Israeli government narrative because he's balanced and two-sided. And if you ever wonder why I'm so dismissive of liberal Zionists and people who say, oh, why can't you give the Israeli side? This is the Israeli side. It's just lies to justify the extermination of Palestinian people, or in times where they're not waging a brutal assault on Gaza, it is done to justify keeping Palestinians under an apartheid regime and taking their land constantly.
Yep.
I, on the other hand, believe that Palestinians deserve dignity and the right to live in the land that they have continually been marginalized in and ethnically cleansed from by the Zionist project. And of course, that means that people like me and Hassan are radical extreme.
Yeah. Anyway, good stuff all around. We'll do a little basketball break. God, it's so foreign policy dense today. Well, he's not a serious person. The dangers of left-wing anti-Semitism. Yeah, no, it's I'm engaging in a lot of dangerous left-wing anti-Semitism. Thanks, man. One note, dude. No matter what, one note is always the same shit.
16 of the biggest creators who hoop for a 1v1 tournament, and the winner
Let's get
gets
some fun stuff.
$10,000. Let's go!
Damn, this guy's good.